Lucy tossed and turned on her bed all night as she thought about how to go about things with Tom. Was she making the right decision? Would Tom really let her be once she finally did it with him? How was she going to tell him about her decision? When she eventually fell asleep that night, she dreamt of Tom all through the night. She woke up very late the next morning and hurriedly ran into the bathroom to brush her mouth. In her haste, she turned the basin tap handle too quickly and it broke, causing the angry water to splash all over her body and the bathroom. Shit! She hissed irritably as she looked around the bathroom, trying to find something that would help her stop the water. She didn't have time for this at all. She couldn't afford to be late and let her boss get there before her. She thought of calling Tom over, but decided to try and manage the situation, as she would have done assuming she didn't have a neighbor like Tom. She tried tying a scarf around the broken tap, but that didn't stop the water from flowing. It only stopped the splashes. She looked around her helplessly until it finally occurred to her that she could stop the flow of water from the controller under the basin sink. Once she did that, she made a mental note to ask Tom to fix it later as she quickly showered and prepared for work. She walked over to her closet and randomly picked out a light blue shirt, which she tucked into a navy blue bodycon pencil skirt. She chose a pair of red block heels, which matched her handbag. As she walked out of her house and headed for the car where she knew he would be waiting, she decided she was going to be blunt with him, like he usually was with her. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Tom asked with a cheerful smile once he saw her approaching. He had just been thinking about going to check on her since she was over 20 minutes late, and that was unlike her. "Good morning to you, too." "I did. What about you? Were you able to finish the job?" Lucy asked, and Tom gave her a nod. "Yes, I did." "Good," Lucy said with a small smile as she got into the front seat of the car, making Tom wonder what she was up to. She seemed friendly instead of cautious. "You woke up late?" Tom asked as he drove off. "Kinda. Was busy with work," Lucy said, and Tom nodded in understanding. "Could you help me fix the tap in my bathroom later in the evening? It broke while I was getting ready for work," Lucy said, making Tom's heart skip a beat. Fix a tap? He had never handled a screwdriver all his life, so how was he supposed to know how to fix her bathroom tap? Um, how about you hand me your key? That way I can get it done while you're at work," Tom suggested, thinking he would pay someone to fix it. Lucy's brows creased. She wasn't sure she was comfortable with the idea of Tom being in her house in her absence. It wasn't like she was thinking he would steal anything, but she just wasn't okay with it. "Why not after work hours?" she asked. "Because I will be busy. I have to do something to do later in the evening," Tom lied. He had been hoping he would spend the evening with her, maybe take her somewhere fun, but now that was not going to work. "Oh," Lucy said with a thoughtful frown. It was either she have him do it at his convenience or have a total stranger do it at her convenience. She would rather have him in her home than someone else. "Okay, I will give you the key," Lucy said with a sigh, and Tom almost sighed in relief too. Now that they had gotten that out of the way, they drove in silence for a while as Lucy kept trying to come up with the best opening line for the other conversation she wanted to have with him, the one that had kept her up for most of the night. How was she supposed to start? Could she just say, "Let's have sex"? Her face colored as she tried to imagine his reaction, and she shook her head. That sounded too direct, like she was begging him to do it. How about, "Let's do it"? Would that be appropriate? At least, that would sound like she was giving in to his request, rather than offering herself to him on a platter. "What are you thinking about so seriously?" Tom asked when he noticed the frown on her face. Lucy's face colored in embarrassment as she was jolted out of her thoughts by Tom's question. She felt as though Tom could see through her to know what she was thinking, so she quickly turned her face away before clearing her throat. "Nothing," she said without looking at him. "Nothing?" "Nah." Seeing the blush on her face, there was no way he could believe that it was nothing. The right side of Tom's lips curved upward in a smirk. "Why do I get the feeling that you were thinking about me? And whatever you were thinking isn't something that should be in the head of a good girl like you?" Tom asked in an amused tone. "I was just thinking about work." Lucy said defensively as she tucked her hair behind her ear, but kept looking outside. Why couldn't she just take this as the opening she needed and say what wanted to say? Why did she have to be so embarrassed over something almost every adult did? Lucy asked herself in frustration. You must have dirty thoughts about your job for you to be blushing this way while thinking about it. Or is it your boss? Don't tell me you're thinking about him, Tom said in mock disbelief, making her hiss at him. You never got to tell me what you discussed with your lady friend yesterday during lunch. Is there any progress? Lucy asked, changing the subject to one that interested her more. She wasn't ready yet to tell him what was on her mind. She knew if she didn't do that this morning, she wouldn't be able to focus on work, so maybe she would tell him her decision once they get to the company. Oh, that. Nothing really. She was just telling me about her job, and then she asked about mine. I don't think she was very impressed to hear that I'm just a mere driver, Tom said with a smile that looked wistful as he remembered the disapproval he had seen on Anita's face when he told her that he was a driver. Why? Did she say anything that gave you that impression? Lucy asked with a concerned frown as she turned to look at him now. She knew nothing could hurt a man more than to be looked down on by someone he cared about. You know how ladies are. She didn't say anything, but that was the vibe I got from her, Tom said with a shrug. I'm sure you're mistaken. Don't worry, I will get her for you. I promise, Lucy said with a confident smile, making him want to chuckle. Don't try too hard. I'm not in a hurry anyway, Tom said with a small smile. So what did you do last night after I left? Were you bored? Did you think of me? Tom asked, once again making her the subject of discussion. Lucy blinked at him before shaking her head. No, I was very busy, so I didn't think about you at all, she lied. That's sad, because I thought about you for most of the night as I worked, wondering if you were thinking or dreaming about me, Tom said with a small smile. He was thinking of her? Why? She really hoped he didn't like her more than he should. You should be thinking of the lady, not me, Lucy blurted out before she could stop herself. I know, right? I wonder why I was thinking of you too, Tom said with a sigh as he drove into the parking lot of the company. Please don't think about me. Let's focus on the lady, okay? Lucy said in a pleading tone as she reached for the door. Why not? Tom asked, stopping her before she could leave. Lucy paused with her hand on the door. She said nothing for a while, and just as Tom was about giving him on getting a response, she said, Because I don't want you to. No good comes out of it. Having said that, Lucy got out of the car before Tom could ask any more questions and started walking towards the company building. She stopped when she remembered that she still hadn't told him her decision, and she was also supposed to hand him the keys to her apartment. She turned around and returned to the car where Tom was still seated and watching her. Here is the key, she said as she got to the car, while Tom unlocked the door so he could take the key from her. He looked at her curiously when she remained standing there like she still had something to say. Lucy took in a deep breath. You know what? What? Let's just do it and get it done with. I mean the sex thing, Lucy said, looking directly into his eyes. Tom chuckled to himself as he thought about his conversation with Lucy earlier. The plumber who was working on Lucy's broken basin tap handle turned to look at Tom, who was leaning by the bathroom door, and watching him as he worked. It was the 5th time he had heard Tom laugh since he started working, and he couldn't help but be curious as to what Tom was finding so amusing that made him keep laughing to himself. Oblivious to the plumber's eyes on him, Tom kept replaying her words in his head. The sex thing, he chuckled again. Who talks about sex that way? It was even the confidence with which she had said it that amused him most. Let's just do it and get it done with. I mean the sex thing, Lucy said, looking directly into his eyes. He had looked at her, trying not to look as surprised as he actually was. I beg your pardon? He had asked, wanting to give her time to rethink and rephrase what she had just said. Did you really not hear me? Or are you just trying to make me repeat myself? She had asked with a scowl. I heard you, but I'm not sure I understand what you mean. You mean you want me to have sex with you? Tom asked with a slightly raised brow. That was when the blush he had been waiting for crept on her face, and she flushed a bright shade of red. Lucy's mouth went dry. How did he always manage to leave her speechless? She had come to him wanting to be blunt, but one word from him and she was left tongue-tied. I, I mean, I. He was sure that if he hadn't already liked her before then, at that moment, he liked her even more, seeing how flustered she looked. How could one person be so beautiful, innocent, and naive? Tom wondered and bent his head to one side as he looked at her with a blank expression while waiting for her to answer his question. He had asked her to have sex with him, not the other way round, so why was he trying to embarrass her? Lucy squared her shoulder and raised her chin stubbornly. She wasn't going to let him bully her. I don't want you to have sex with you. You said you said you wanted to be. You asked me to. Lucy paused when she couldn't find the right words to express herself. You know what? Let's just forget it, Lucy said, and quickly turned around to leave. How can I forget something like that? Tom called out as he quickly got out of the car and hurried to catch up with her while she kept walking very fast. When do you want us to do it? I mean, the sex thing? He asked, but she kept walking without saying anything. He didn't relent either as he got into the elevator with her. Thankfully, not many people were around at that time, since Lucy always got to the office earlier than most, even when she was late like she was today. Once the elevator door closed, giving them the privacy they needed, Tom pulled her to himself and descended on her lips before she could stop him. Lucy's breath caught in her throat, and her heart fluttered as she felt his arms around her waist, while he kissed her very softly. He pulled away before she could respond in any way. Let's talk about the sex thing later. I just wanted to make it clear that I heard you, and I understood what you said, Tom said as he stepped away from her. Lucy didn't say anything. She couldn't. What was she supposed to say? She just stared ahead of her at nothing in particular, and once the door opened, she got out of the elevator and hurried away from him. I'm done, the plumber announced, bringing Tom's attention back to the present. What are the items you got? Tom asked, going over to stand by the basin so he could see what had been done. He listened as the plumber gave him a breakdown of all he had bought and what he did. Okay, thank you, Tom said with a polite smile as he took out his wallet and handed him more dollar notes than he had charged. Thank you, sir, the man said happily as he gathered his items and left the house. Tom's eyes moved around her bathroom, and he grinned when he noticed her choice of undies that were hanging behind her towel on the towel rail. He was certain she had failed to hide them away because she had thought she would be home when he comes over to fix her broken tap. Too bad he hadn't seen it earlier, else he would have kept it away so that the plumber wouldn't see it, although he doubted the plumber had looked in that direction. Well, he was the plumber as far as she was concerned, and he was going to make it clear to her that he had seen her undies. For someone as naive and uptight as she was, he was surprised that she had a pretty sexy taste in undies. Or maybe he shouldn't be so surprised, seeing as she had been wearing a thong the first time he met her. She intrigued him. The more he got to know her, the more he wanted to know her. Lucinda Perry. Tom called her name out loud as though she was standing in the bathroom with him. He took out his phone and texted her. Meanwhile, in Lucy's office, Lucy buried her face in her palm as she tried to get Tom and his kiss out of her head. Each time she tried to focus on the job in front of her, she saw him pull her in for a kiss. And it made her heart flutter. Wasn't he a bit too bold for a driver? What made him believe he could her and touch her whenever and however he liked? And why did she have to be so tongue-tied around him? Why did her body have to respond to his slightest touch and kisses? Perhaps it was because he was the first person to interact with her body so intimately. That had to be it. She picked up her phone when it beeped with a message notification and quickly opened it, thinking the text was from the CEO. She gasped in surprise, and her face flushed a bright red when she read the text, which contained just 2 words, "Lovely undies." She quickly threw her phone in her handbag and glanced at the door guiltily when she heard a knock. She was going to think about Tom and a suitable response for him later. For now, she needed to focus on work. Lucy told herself as she took in a deep breath to calm herself. "Come in," Lucy called out when she felt she was calm enough. Anita walked in with a bright smile on her face. Good morning, Anita greeted cheerfully. She was dressed in a short gray-colored pencil skirt and a yellow shirt. Good morning, Lucy responded with an equally bright smile, even though she was wondering what Anita was doing in her office. So far, she knew the CEO didn't have any appointments, and neither did he have any plans of meeting anyone other than Mr. Harry. So why was Anita here during work hours? You're not too busy, are you? I was around the company, so I decided to stop by and say hello to you, Anita said, even though her eyes were looking everywhere else but at Lucy. Oh, that is nice of you, Lucy said with an awkward smile. When she had approached Anita to be friends with her, she hadn't meant the sort of friends that dropped in unannounced like this during work hours. Is the CEO in? Anita asked, cocking her head in the direction of the CEO's office as she dropped her handbag on the desk and comfortably lowered herself on the lone seat opposite Lucy. The CEO? Was that why she was here? Lucy wondered as she looked at Anita. I'm not sure he is in. I'm yet to see him today, Lucy said with a polite smile as she tried to figure out what was going on in Anita's head. Oh, I guess you don't see him often, Anita said with a slightly disappointed smile. She planned to visit Lucy's office as often as she could until she runs into the CEO coincidentally. So, what will you be doing this weekend? Anita asked, thinking that she needed to get closer to Lucy to comfortably ask her questions about the CEO. Anita's question reminded Lucy that it was Friday already, and she was going to have the whole weekend to herself to think and worry about Tom, which was something she wasn't looking forward to. I'm not sure yet. How about we hang out tomorrow? That way we can get to know ourselves better, Anita asked with a sweet smile. Lucy considered her for a moment, thinking that it wouldn't be a bad idea to hang out with Anita. That way, not only would she be busy over the weekend and get Tom out of her head, but she would also be able to help Tom observe Anita and find out more about her and how he can win her heart. I don't think it's a bad idea, Lucy said with a friendly smile and tried not to glance at her phone when it beeped again. Lovely. So where are we meeting? My place or yours? Anita asked eagerly. Would it be a good idea to invite Anita over to her house? She wasn't sure she wanted Anita to know that Tom was her neighbor yet, and she didn't want Tom to know about her plan either. She decided that, for the best interest of them all, it would be best to meet at Anita's house. I'm new here, so I think it would be nice to leave my house for a change. Let's hang out at your place, Lucy suggested with a bright smile, and Anita clapped her hands excitedly. Perfect. I will text you the location and time, Anita said with a wide smile as she stood up and picked up her handbag. See you tomorrow, Anita said with a wave as she walked out of the office. Once Anita left, Lucy took in a deep breath as she reached for her phone to see what Tom had sent again. She raised a hand to her lips to stifle a surprised gasp as she read his text. What color of undies are you wearing right now?